on your recording.
Yep, that was my, just one sec, let me get the thing, because I gotta push buttons, woo, which is actually old behaviors, pushing buttons. All right, I'm Paige, I'm an alcoholic, and let's kick it off. So we're right on page 24, and page 24 and 25 are some incredibly exciting parts of the book. So it's a really exciting place to start, to kick off, to dive into. And what we were talking about last week is the idea that at a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into the state where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. And so what we're diving into is the mental obsession. And so we're talking about that powerful, desperate need and want that I had to stay sober. I needed to stay sober. I wanted to stay sober. I had to stay sober. And yet I could not stay sober. Does that kind of sound a little familiar? You know? And it tells us this tragic situation has already arrived practically in every case long before it is suspected. What that means is that I am hopeless way before I even realize that I might have a problem. That this thing has me before I'm willing to even look at this thing. Do you know what I'm saying? If I've got alcoholism, I've likely been in trouble for a long time and not able to see it. Now, where we're really diving into is the italics. So it says, the fact is. Now, I want to point out the fact, not theory, not idea, not opinion, but the fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, and what that means is we don't know why. The why does not matter. Reasons yet obscure, we don't know why, have lost the power of choice in drink. And when we talk about a lack of choice in my ability, in my choice in drink, what that means is I'm going to drink again. Because if I have the ability to choose whether or not I will drink again, I would never drink again. But if I have no choice about whether or not I drink again, I will drink again. That is the power. 24, first paragraph, those that just joined us, in italics. We're in the italics, the squiggles. Now, actually, welcome. I'll talk a little about the squiggles. There's a common thing that's shared and that I shared for a long time, which is that, when books were being published into the world, if it was in italics, you would have to go in and change the printing on the printing press, and that would cost extra money, and it was more expensive. Yeah, squiggles. Bill is yelling at me, but polite yelling, not all caps. That's rude yelling. Now, what I want you to know is that is not true. We kind of looked into it. It was about the 1930s when it probably wasn't going to cost any extra money to put anything in italics. But one of the things I often say, and since Howard isn't here, I can get away with it, is never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Because what is the thrust of that story? That idea that 100 alcoholics had to agree, 80 alcoholics had to agree to spend money on it? Goodness gracious, that means it must be important. And if you don't believe me, go to your home group and try to make a motion to spend money on something. You'll see how unlikely that is, right? And so that story, which is probably not true, is telling us the importance of the italics. So that's what we want to take from it, that idea of like, okay, these italics are important. The squiggles, as I call them, because I'm fancy. Also, I often point out that on a computer to get italics, it's Control-I or Command-I. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Control-I or Command-I, so you can get your italics. No need for a group consensus. No need to spend extra money. And we got a little fun fact about the IT. You're welcome. I'm so sorry. Alrighty. So it says our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. So the willpower that I have in other areas of my life doesn't hold any weight, doesn't hold any water when it comes to not taking that first drink. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago, We are without defense against the first drink. And what that line is saying is, if you've ever come to the rooms and you heard something like play the tape to the end. Anyone ever hear play the tape to the end? What it is saying is that is not an effective strategy. It'll work until it doesn't. Do you know what I'm saying? The metaphor that I always make is, who here is going to jump out of an airplane with about a 50% successful parachute, you know? It's not the times that it works that matters. It's the times that it doesn't. Anyone here going to invest in a 60-40 fire extinguisher? Do you know what I'm saying? I need a 6. It'll work 60% of the time. It's not the times that it doesn't work. That works. It's the times that it doesn't. And here's the thing about playing the tape to the end. I always kind of talk about this, because when I got sober, people would say, play the tape to the end, play the tape to the end. And I'll tell you what happens to me when I try to play the tape to the end. And I'll be honest, when the pain and the suffering and the humiliation of my last spree is on me, I can see that I don't want to do that again. But when the obsession is on me, the mental obsession is on me, this is what it looks like when this silly little drunk tries to play the tape to the end. This is what it looks like. I'm sitting on a grand piano, and I've got a red sequin evening gown. And some of you are like, never in your life. Never in my life. Absolutely not. And there's a chandelier and a candelabra. And I've got like one of those those long gloves, because I'm classy. And I've got one of those classy cigarette holders. It's got a crack pipe in it. Don't look too closely at that, though. Outside issues. Doing them. And I got a glass of Chardonnay or champagne, or, some classy sort of drink, maybe a mimosa if I'm feeling brunchy. I play the tape to the end. What's the reality that I cannot see? The reality that I cannot see is I got wet pants behind the dumpster. I got no shoes. I don't know where they went. You know what I'm saying? That's my experience. Is when the obsession is on me, I don't have the ability to play the tape to the end. I don't have the ability to bring to mind the consequences of my alcoholism. I don't have that power. And when I try to play the tape to the end, doesn't the tape tell me this time will be different? Nobody will ever know. I'll just get away with it. It's not going to be so bad. I'll just get it out of my system. Isn't that what the tape tells me when the obsession is on me? So it is not a permanent solution to my alcoholism, because I'm incapable of doing it. And that's something that is really, really helpful for me to understand, that as an alcoholic, I am incapable of bringing to mind the consequences of my alcoholism. That is humanly impossible for me. And then that suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago, it's not even an old memory. It can be a fresh memory. And I still cannot bring it to mind. And when it says we are without defense against the first drink, to be defenseless. There was just that boxing, hullabaloo, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, they were fighting, and some other people. If I am getting into the ring and I am defenseless, do you know what that means? That means I am getting punched in the face and there's nothing I can do about it. I got no defense. I promise you, I've got no defense against any sort of professional boxer. I got nothing. But I am defenseless. So in terms of the fight against alcoholism, I am defenseless, which means I'm going to get punched in the face, which means I will drink again. That's what we're saying. I am without defense against the first drink. I will drink again. That's what we need to see. So it says the almost certain consequences that follow taking even a glass of beer do not crowd into the mind to deter us. So we don't think of the consequences. If these thoughts occur, they are hazy and readily supplanted, that just means replaced, with the old threadbare idea that this time we shall handle ourselves like other people. Threadbare is worn out. So that old worn out idea that this time I'm going to drink like others, that old worn out idea this time will be different, it's a worn out idea. Have I ever had that old worn out idea that proves to be false, that I cannot drink like a lady? I don't do anything like a lady, but especially drinking. You know what I'm saying? That, where I have that thought that comes to mind and I can't think of the consequences. Man, that's alcoholism. It goes on to say there is the complete failure of the kind of defense that keeps one from putting his hand on the hot stove. Now, if you're writing in your book, and I hear that's what all the cool kids are doing, writing in their book, you can make a little note to see page 84. Now, we're going to finish the paragraph, the next paragraph, and then we're going to pop over. But let's have a look at, just make sure we write down page 84. And so it goes on to say, the alcoholic may say to himself in the most casual way, it won't burn me this time, so here's how. Or perhaps he doesn't think at all. How often have some of us begun to drink in this nonchalant way? And after the third or the fourth pounded on the bar and said to ourselves, for God's sakes, how did I ever get started again? Only to have that thought supplanted by, well, I'll stop with the sixth drink. I'm not a stop by the sixth drink sort of lie person. Or what's the use anyhow? That's me. I'm a what's the use anyhow sort of person. So what we're saying is we burn ourselves on the hot stove. And it's hot and it hurts. And we think, whoa, I'm never going to do that again. And then a day, a week, a month, several months down the line, I think my problem was gas stoves. But this one's electric, and I put my hand on the hot stove. Or I think, my problem is that the stove is hot in South Carolina, but it'll be different in Canada. Do you know what I'm saying? Or I start thinking, listen, do you know how cold it is? I forgot to look up the temperature in Fahrenheit, but do you know how cold it is here in Canada? Like, I need a little bit of warmth. If you've been what I went through, you touch your hand on the hot stove. You know what I mean? Oh, I'll just touch it for a moment. Do you know? Or if you were going through what I was going through, you'd have to touch it too. Or it looks like F you, F this, F my sponsor, F this book, I'm touching the hot stove. It looks like touch the stove, touch the stove, touch the stove, touch the stove until I get a little relief. Or it looks like I got my hand on the stove and I'm like, how the heck did it happen? Do you know what I'm saying? And if we look at the results of burning ourselves on the stove, that pales in comparison to the results of our alcoholism, and yet I cannot stop myself. And an interesting thing about me, and you might be wondering, like, why I was putting my hand on the, like, normally you'd be like, oop, touch the stove, but I was going like this, is because when I was not well, I physically put my arm on a hot stove as a go F yourself to somebody, which is not how we resolve conflicts. I wasn't well. I was probably sober, but I was dry. I wasn't in AA or anything like that. It was having a brief stint of sobriety and getting into a fight. And I put my hand on the hot stove. I put my arm on the hot stove, and I got some burn marks that are in the little circles. And I share that because, like, when I talk about that, it's like, whoa, that is really messed up. Yes, that is. That is how messed up my alcoholism is. I promise you, my alcoholism has created more scars in my life than a couple on my arm. You know what I'm saying? But I did have a sponsee that pointed out, I bet you only did that one once. Touche. Touche. I don't think I put my arm on the hot stove a second time. You know what I'm saying? Fair enough. And so on page 24, we're in step 1. And page 24, I am doomed to touch the stove again. At step 1, the concession, the reality of my predicament in the here and now is that I will touch the stove again. I will drink again. So we made a note, page 84. Let's bounce around. We're going to do that a little. I have this whole big book bounce around that I do on pages 24 and 25. I won't bounce us around as much as I do on 20, like when I'm there. I'll do a couple bounces, but let's pop over to page 84. We're going to go to the very bottom paragraph of page 84. It's right below the line, love and tolerance of others is our code. I wish I had looked up the major highways in and around South Carolina, but I know there's an interstate that's got to annoy people. So love and tolerance of others is our code, even on the interstate, or the turnpike. There are places that have turnpikes. I don't really know what that is, but they got them. And these are the step 10 promises. So if you don't have this note in your book, make a note right below, very bottom paragraph, right below love and tolerance of others is our code. Step 10 promises. And this is the reality of step 10. When I'm at step 10 and actively doing step 10, this is the reality. It says, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. The fight is over. I don't need a defense because I'm not even in the ring. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't got to try and duck and dodge and avoid getting punched in the face. I'm not even in the ring. The fight is over. It's done. And it says, for by this time, sanity will have returned. What is the sanity we're talking about? The mental obsession is gone. Because the insanity of alcoholism is the thought that I have when I am sober that takes me back again and again to the first drink. That is the insanity of alcoholism, and that is gone. And so sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor, which means rarely. And then it says, if tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. Make a little note to see page 24. Hey, that's where we just came from. See, on page 24, I can't stop myself from touching the hot stove. This time will be different. Nobody will ever know. I just got to get it out of my system. If I burn myself real bad, then maybe I won't want to do it again. And I touch it and I touch it and I touch it. Now, page 84, I recoil from it as from a hot flame. I see that it's hot. I know that it's hot, and I do not have any desire to touch it. And here is how I get there. It says we react sanely and normally. The sane act for an alcoholic is to not drink. But I go back to it because of the insanity of the mental obsession. So we react sanely and normally, and this is what's important, and we will find that this has happened automatically. Automatically. It happens to me. I'm not trying to think away the first drink. I'm not trying to play the tape to the end. I don't have a defense because I can raise a defense, but I'm still getting punched in the face by alcohol. I will drink again. This has happened to me. The fight's over. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. This is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it. Neither are we avoiding temptation. The fight is over. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. And here's the thing, when we get to the third step, it'll take us a little while. I know I'm not going quick. But when we get to the third step, we're going to talk about making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. And at the third step, I do not know if my will and my life will be cared for. I do not know that. And the third step, it is a leap of faith. But what I want you to know is anytime I read these promises, what we are pointing to is God's care. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. That is God's care. Now, there is not power in the words on the pages. The power is in the experience. So if I take the actions to get me from page 24 to page 85, bottom of 84, top of 85, if I take those actions and I experience those promises, that becomes not an idea, not an opinion, not a thought, but irrefutable evidence of God's care for me. And that is our experience. I live in the step 10 promises today, and I mean this. I am not special. And I don't mean it in a derogatory way either. I'm not trying to bait you guys into giving me compliments in the chat. What I mean by that is there's nothing special about me. The miracle that has happened in my life can happen in everyone here's life. I've been joking about the hills that I will and will not die on. One of the hills it turns out I got 3 hills I'll die on. One of the hills that I die on is that this can happen to you. This can happen for you. You can experience this. That's a hill I'm dying on. I got some other ones, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about them when we get there, that this can happen to you. It says we feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. It's been removed. It's gone. It's not there. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is the experience of the first 180 members. But that is also the experience of those of us who has followed the directions as outlined in this book to the best of our ability. That is my experience. I'm not cocky, nor am I afraid. I am in a position of neutrality that I did not earn, that I did not deserve, but believe me, I had to take some actions to get there. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. So if I am new today, if I am struggling today, if I know what it's like to continue to touch the hot stove despite knowing it is ruining my life, these are the promises that carry weight. But how do I get there? How do I achieve this? Well, I take the actions, step 1 all the way to step 10, and continue to keep in fit spiritual condition. How do I keep in fit spiritual condition? I continue to work the 10th step. I grow in the 11th step, and I go work with others and practice these principles in all my affairs. That is how I do it. So if I want this freedom, the only thing that is asked of me is to work these steps as a way of life, like my life depends on it, because it does. That's the difference between me on page 24 and me on page 84. And all of us on page 24. And all of us who have recovered. This is what it means to be recovered. I am not cured of alcoholism. I'm not cured. Because if I stop doing this work, I will tell you, I promise there will be an erosion in that state of grace. Grace is, and I didn't earn it. And I will drink again. And I always got the allergy. I won't ever not have the allergy. So if I drink again, the drink is going to take me, and I'm going to need more and more and more and more, and I won't be able to stop. And so, but that's what it means to be recovered. I'm living in that state of grace where the obsession is gone. I am not cured, but I promise you I am recovered. And that doesn't make me special or better than anyone either. I'm just living in, I just do a lot of work to stay there. You know what I'm saying? All right, back to page 24. We're going to bounce around a little bit more than we normally. I don't know how often we normally bounce around here. I can't remember, but we're going to bounce around a little bit. All right, back to page 24. Oh yeah, we're going to do some bouncing. All right, so it says, right after, I'll stop with the 6th drink, or what's the use anyhow? Bottom paragraph, page 24. It says, when this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid, and unless locked up may die or go permanently insane. That's not good news. That's not good news. And I want you to know, we're going to see that mirrored at the bottom of page 25. Actually, we'll bounce bottom of page 25. Very bottom paragraph, page 25. It says, if you're as seriously alcoholic as we were, and I'll tell you, when I got here, I'm like, I hope I wasn't. Ooh, I hope I'm not like you guys. Ooh, you know? We believe there is no middle of the road solution. I was looking for one. I promise you I was. And it says we were in a position where life was becoming impossible. How did they know? You know what I mean? How did they know? And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, bottom of 24, it says we're probably beyond human aid. That's not good. We had 2 alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter ends, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. And the other, to accept spiritual help. We'll talk about how for us that's a tough choice. But what I need to do, if I got, that's a stark warning. That is a black and white situation. And I want you to know, as I would read these pages on my own, I would think that doesn't apply, that doesn't apply, that doesn't apply. So let us find out if this applies to me and maybe applies to you. Back to bottom of page 24. It wasn't a big bounce, it was a little bounce. It says, when this sort of thinking, and what is the thinking that we are talking about? The thinking is the mental obsession. We're talking about, have I ever said that is it? I'm never going to drink again. What we saw in the italics of page 24. What we saw, like the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. What we're talking about is no defense, no defense, no defense. Have I had that experience where I have said I do not want to drink again, and found myself a day, a week, a month, several months with a drink in hand? has that been my experience? And if that's mine, if I know what it's like to have that thought, this time will be different, nobody will ever know. I just got to get it out of my system. Okay, I'm going to relapse anyway, so what's the point? You know, my problem was drinking with Canadians, but I can drink with Americans, whatever it is, you know. Your alcohol's not as strong, or, you know, little ego. I wasn't drinking anything classy, so don't you worry. Behind the dumpster with the pants that were wet. That's me. Sobriety made me a part of, well, actually, it wasn't sobriety. Sobriety could not make me, I was going to make the joke, sobriety made me a part of the Dry Pants Club. Proud member of the Dry Pants Club. But sobriety cannot make me a member of the Dry Pants Club, because sobriety is not a solution for my alcoholism. I'm doomed to have wet pants again. I'm doomed to drink again. So Alcoholics Anonymous, to be specific, the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is directed out of the book, Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what made me part of the Dry Pants Club. Nothing but the power of God working in my life. Dry Pants Club. So focus. When it says, when this sort of thinking is fully established. So have I had those thoughts? Do I know what it's like to say I'm not going to do it again, only to do it again? It says fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies. What does it mean to be an individual with alcoholic tendencies? So if you want, we can bounce around. Let's go to page XXX. It's in the doctor's opinion. It's Roman numerals, XXX. If you go to, an easy way to find it is you go to page 1, and then you flip the page back, and it'll be on the left-hand side of the page. It's so hard, because like Roman numerals are tricky for everyone. But page XXX. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph down. And it's right after the 5 different types of alcoholics, the 5 different types. And it says all these. So the paragraph right near the bottom, all these, and many others have one symptom in common. So the one symptom that all these alcoholics have is this. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. Is that my experience? And it says this phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of the allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. So do I know what it's like to take a drink and have that drink set off that phenomenon of craving, where I need another, and I need another, and I need another. And the more I drink, the more I need that next drink. Now, if you're like me, you're going to remember the couple times where that didn't set off. But more often than not, do I know what that's like, where the allergy sets off? Because non-alcoholics have never experienced it. If I know what that's like, to take a drink and have that drink take me, and take me to places I don't want to go, and do things I don't want to do, and cross lines I don't want to cross, hurt people I don't want to hurt, I am a person with alcoholic tendencies. Because that one symptom, all of us here can relate to. We might be a little more heavier on the obsession, a little more heavier on it, but it's kind of like, if I could drink responsibly, to be fair, if I could drink responsibly, I'm like, why would you want to? But if I could control my drinking, why would I want to stop? So if you're hanging out with me on a Wednesday, it's probably a good indication that you can't control it. So back on page 24, when this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, if you're writing in your book, when it says this sort of thinking, make a note, the mental obsession. And when it says alcoholic tendencies, make a note, physical allergy, because that is what we're talking about. And that is what makes me alcoholic. That's it. Physical allergy, mental obsession. It is just that simple for diagnosing alcoholism. Just that simple. So, wait, hold on. Do we have some experiences of that? Because I'll tell you, I do. I know what it's like to start and can't stop, and I know what it's like to try to stay stopped and not being able to stay stopped. Anyone else relate to that? Yeah, we got some of you. Some of you are just trying to come back to page 24. I know I go too quickly. I'm trying really hard to go slow. I promise that I'm doing my best. Thank you. So, if that sounds familiar, it says he has probably placed himself beyond human aid. Human power is not enough. What are some examples of human power? Well, did I try getting into a relationship, getting out of a relationship? Geographic, psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, treatment centers, psych wards, detoxes. None of these are bad. Well, depending on who you're getting in the relationship with. But none of these are inherently bad. But have they not worked? What are the things that I tried to put between me and the first drink? I'm just going to work real hard at work. I'm going to really focus on my health. I'm going to really focus on all these things, just going to meetings or, doing some of the steps. That is human power, and it is not sufficient human aid. And unless locked up, may die or go permanently insane. And sometimes we think that warning is a warning that only applies in the 1930s. We don't have asylums anymore. But that warning is for me. If I can't control the amount I take once I start to drink, and I can't stay stopped, I am in a hopeless condition. And I am doomed to continue to drink again, even though it is destroying my life. And yeah, we don't necessarily have any institutions, but there are jails. And people like us end up in jail for a very long time, end up in prison for a very long time. We drink ourselves to death, or we drink ourselves into situations where we can't get out of it without wanting to kill ourselves. Suicide is not a solution to my alcoholism. We drink ourselves into accidents, car crashes. I've had some sponsees that have fallen off things and narrowly escaped death. And I've had friends that did not escape death. You know what I'm saying? This is fatal. That is the reality. So unless I am locked up, I may die or go permanently insane. And that locked up can look like being in and out of rehab for years and years and years and years, because that's the closest to a modern equivalent. Long-term institutions, that's what it looks like. And it says these stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. But for the grace of God, there would have been thousands more convincing demonstrations. So many want to stop but cannot. And if I am here today and I want to stop but I cannot, this is who Alcoholics Anonymous is for. I mean, if you're here today, AA is for you, don't you worry. But it is for those who want to stop but cannot. This is not a matter of desire or willpower or needing it or wanting it. Man, if I do this, I will get well. And if I don't, I will continue to relapse. And I love that it is but for the grace of God. Because to have alcoholism is a death sentence. It is a fatal illness. Make no bones about it. Alcoholics Anonymous, we are dealing with terminal patients. This is fatal. This is like hospice work. An alcoholic's natural course is to die of alcoholism. And God intervened. And if I get to page 26, it's me. I don't know if I'll get there quickly. Hey, Raj, we're on page 25. But for the grace of God, if I get to the history, we'll see the intervention of a couple non-alcoholics, and seconds and inches, we shouldn't be here. And seconds and inches, the stars aligned, and a silly little drunk by the name of Bill Wilson had the vital 3 pieces of information that I need to know in order to achieve sobriety, but for the grace of God. And so, top of page 25, in the italics, the squiggles. Bill's yelling, but without yelling. His polite yelling. It says, there is a solution. There is a solution. And I emphasize quite a bit, and I emphasized this when we started the chapter, there is a solution, but I'm going to say it again. There is a solution. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we have one solution, and that is good news. Because if we have as many solutions as there are alcoholics, I don't know if that works. I don't know if your solution is going to work for me. I don't know. I don't know about you. I was running out of time. I didn't have a lot of time to try 36 different solutions and figure out if they work, because all the other solutions I was trying wasn't. The solution that we have in Alcoholics Anonymous is the spiritual awakening. You can call it a spiritual experience, you can call it a psychic change, but that is our solution, a solution. And how we get it is the 12 steps. But I always want to emphasize there is a solution. So if you're new, if you are struggling, if you're relapsing, there is a solution. If you think you're a chronic relapser and this thing can't help you, there is a solution. If you've been sober a little while, but it's dry, and you got problems that are piling up, and the world isn't working the way we think it should, you know what I mean? And we don't think those 12 steps could possibly help this. There is a solution. We have a solution, and that is a powerful promise. I have to start with my hopelessness because nobody's jazzercised about a spiritual awakening when they get here. But when I see the hopelessness, I can grab a hold of the hope. There is a solution. And I love this paragraph because it says almost none of us liked the searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings which the process requires for its successful consummation. You know what that means? That means almost none of us thought the steps were a good idea. Almost none of us saw them on the wall or shared on the Zoom screen or on page 59 and thought, oh boy, I can't wait to do that. A searching and fearless moral inventory? I got a notebook right here. I can't wait. Oh, a 5th step? Why, yes, I would love to share my deepest, darkest secrets and yep, can't wait. Quiet hour? 6 and 7? Yeah. Amends to my ex even? No issues there. Prayer meditation? I see God all over this thing. I got no problems with that word. No baggage, no hang-ups. Working with others? I'd love to. Alcoholics? Yep, they are known for being so kind, patient, reasonable, and punctual. Absolutely. No, none of us was excited to do the steps. And I want you to know what a blessing that is. Because sometimes, actually a lot of times in the rooms, we hear about our motives or we want to talk about our motives. Our motives, I'll be honest, when it comes to spiritual action, I don't think my motives mattered at all, even a little bit. There's only 2 places in the book where it alludes to me checking my motives. One is when I am recovered, working with others, sponsoring others, and checking my motives before going to a place where there's drinking. The other is like in regards to my sex conduct and my sex inventory. Only 2 places. What are the 2 places we never check our motives? There. We don't check them. It's like, nope. He might not be Mr. Right, but he's Mr. Right now. That's good enough for me, you know? Or I can, black and white, right? I can go to the bar. I can do whatever. But oftentimes we want to be like, what's my motive in sponsoring? Who cares? Go sponsor somebody. What's my motive in making amends? Who cares? Go make the amends. And sometimes we hear in the rooms, you got to do it for yourself. I'll be honest, by the time I get to the rooms Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been doing a lot for myself, and how's that been working, And I will grant us the idea that fair enough, if I'm doing it for my family or my loved ones, I might not have the motivation to continue to do it. But what I want you to know is when it talks about almost none of us liked it, what that means is I do not have to want to do the steps. I do not have to like the steps. I do not have to think the 12 steps are a good idea. I do not have to wait until I'm happy, choice, and free to work the steps. Goodness gracious, we know I couldn't. I couldn't get happy before doing the steps. That's not possible. I couldn't get spiritual before doing the steps. I don't have to wait until I'm not afraid of the steps. If I take the actions of the steps, I will get well. And if I don't, I won't. That is good news. I don't have to wait. I don't have to get in any other position other than I'll do it regardless of what I think, what I feel, what I believe, what I know. I can just do it. And if I do it, I will get well. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And we'll see this all over the book. The book is going to meet me where I'm at and take me where I need to go. Alcoholics Anonymous, the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the program of action is described and dictated out of the book Alcoholics Anonymous, does not expect me to be perfect. And so often it meets me in my resistance. It meets me in my unwillingness. It meets me in my fear. It meets me in my uncertainty and gives me the spiritual directions on how to move through that. I don't have to be perfectly willing, but I got to do the work. And when I talk with sponsees about willingness, I'll tell you what willingness does not need to look like. What I just described. Oh boy, I can't wait. I would love to. Delightful. That willingness could look like, I had a sponsee and she would eye roll. I could even tell on the phone when she would roll her eyes. I can do it with resistance. I can do it pissed off. I can do it afraid. I can do it not believing it'll work. I can do it not thinking I am worthy of the life that this program has to offer. But if I do it anyways, I will get well. So willingness can look like having a little bit of attitude, but doing it anyways. All right, so it goes on to say, but we saw that it really worked in others, and we'd come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it. And so what gets me to take these actions that I do not want to take? There's two things. And in the 12 and 12 on Tradition 9, it talks about how Alcoholics Anonymous has only two disciplinarians. We need no others. It's great love and great suffering. Great love and great suffering. And alcoholism has a job. Alcoholism's job is great suffering. So when it talks about we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it, that is alcoholism's job. To beat me into a state of reasonableness, to take me to the end of myself, to take me to the place of pain and hopelessness and pain and degradation where I am left with nothing left but to take this course of action that I do not think will help. That is alcoholism's job. Now I got a job, and my job is great love. I describe myself as a recovered alcoholic. I mean that I am a recovered alcoholic. And my responsibility is to show up with great love. Now, that great love does mean being honest with people. But what it means, and it says, when it says, but we saw that it really worked in others. My job is to be a demonstration of these 12 steps, a demonstration of this power. To have the light that is not me shine through me so that you cannot deny that the change has happened to me. That is my responsibility. My responsibility is to make the approach, to have my hand out to you, to reach out to you, to see if I can help you. That is my responsibility. And that is great love. And when there is great love, and we offer that in the fellowship, and we offer that with the clear-cut directions, that is great love. And there is a responsibility, and that is great suffering, and that is alcoholism's job. When I am paired with those, there is nothing left for me but to grab a hold of the simple kit of spiritual tools. I'm spoiling what we're going to read. I can feel me doing it. Laid at our feet. So I'll read it. I ruined it. Keep coming back. But we saw that it really worked in others. And we had come to believe in the hopelessness and futility. And again, hopelessness. There's that word again. And futility of life as we had been living it. When therefore we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved. Keep in mind, approach. I got to go approach. I've got to reach out to them. And the problem had been solved. That is what it means to be recovered. I am not cured, but the problem is solved. It's done. I'm not in the fight. I'm not in the ring. It is done. There was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. Now, that simple kit of spiritual tools is the 12 steps. That's it. The 12 steps as given to us out of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. That is a simple kit of spiritual tools. It says we've found much of heaven and we have been rocketed. I want to point this out. Rocketed. That means with some velocity. And it says into the fourth dimension of existence. Rocketed. That means quickly. The last time we saw rocketed was in Bill's story. The last time we saw the fourth dimension of existence, was in Bill's story. And it was catapulted. You'll notice catapult has some velocity, but by the time we got to page 25, we got some rocket boosters on that baby. And so what does that mean? That means rocketed into the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is a synonym for the spiritual awakening. To live in the spiritual awakening, that's what the fourth dimension is. And to get rocketed means with some velocity, with some urgency, quickly. It does not take long to get well in Alcoholics Anonymous. It does not take long to recover. It does not take long to go from the end of myself, that hopelessness and despair, to the level of life better than the best I'd ever known. It does not take long to experience that fourth dimension of existence of which we had not even dreamed. Now, I spoke about this last time when we were doing the fourth dimension of existence. Oops, sorry, I moved the recording because I got to grab my thing. My bad. Sorry. The last time we spoke about the fourth dimension, it's like, what are you talking about? Are you talking about like doing mushrooms in some weirdo's van with carpet on the walls? Like, what are you talking about? Like, ooh. No, that's not what we're talking about, the fourth dimension. So one of the best descriptions of the fourth dimension, what it really means is to live in the spiritual awakening. That's what the fourth dimension is. But there's different dimensions. Now we are living in the third dimension. And so C.S. Lewis gave this beautiful description. He wrote a bunch of religious literature, but he also wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Just if me mentioning C.S. Lewis like makes your brain go like, wait a minute, I know that name, where's it from? Because if you're like me, you'll just stop listening to me and then go look up C.S. Lewis and try to figure it out. And this was his description of the fourth dimension of existence. Now we're gonna draw this little guy. Whoop, whoop, whoop. This little guy, he's looking good. It could be a lady too. We got a lot of gals here. Hold on. There you go. Little lady. Just doing the best I can. And I promise I can draw better than this. The people who have been coming to a lot of my studies are like, are you? Because your stick person looks the same every time. But I am in the third dimension of existence where I'm seeing things at a greater depth. This little stick person is in the second dimension. I'm in dimension 3. Stick person in dimension 2. And what I'm going to do, oh man, every time I draw it terribly, I am going to draw and I do the little thing. What you can see is that's a road. It's such a good road. I don't need to hear about how it's not a road. It's a delightful road. Look at the depth of that. Oh, it's good. It's like when you have to explain a joke. You can tell it's a good joke when you have to explain it. Ugh. You can tell it's a good drawing when I have to insist that's what it is. But in that, I've drawn a road. And to you and me, please be nice, we can tell that it is a road. I know it's not great. But to this little stick person, we'll say, hey, do you see the road? And the stick person is like, no. What are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? That is a triangle. And to be in the fourth dimension of existence, what that means is to see things at depth, to see things at, oh, yeah, I'm so glad it's helpful, but to see things at a greater depth. And it's if you've ever gone to the rooms and you heard people sort of minimizing the power of a spiritual experience. And they say things like, oh, I've never seen a burning bush. Man, if you have not seen the presence of God in a tree, you are missing out. Do you know what I mean? Seeing things at a depth that I could not see before. And it's not woo-woo taking drugs in somebody's van. That's not what we're talking about. There is a depth to the depth of the fourth dimension. We can tell people are in the fourth dimension because they carry themselves with a calm, a patience. Yeah, that completely new perspective. You know, you can tell they're grounded in something deeper. You know, that's what it looks like, and that's what I'm after. And it's this place of existence of which we had not even dreamed. Now, again, if you're like, girl, you drew a picture, but I still do not know. But the fourth dimension, what does a spiritual experience look like? Well, we're going to see the description of a spiritual experience in this next paragraph. It says, the great fact. Not, keep coming back and this might happen. No, the great fact is just this and nothing less than this. that and the we is those of us who have recovered. Of course, it's originally the first 80 members. First 100 is what we call them. But the first 80 members. But it is all of us who have recovered, who have done this work and had this experience. We have had deep and effective spiritual experiences. I need one of those. Because nothing less than a spiritual experience, and I will drink again. I will drink again. And it says, and so this is what it looks like, which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and towards God's universe. There's a revolutionary change in my attitude. And the attitude, the way in which I see life, my fellow, like human beings, and God's universe. The way in which I see all of these things is radically different. Now, some of you guys know what it's like before you've had coffee in the morning. Try to change your attitude before you get your caffeine. Then you'll get a good glimpse as to what it's like to change your attitude. I can't do it on my own. I need a power greater than myself to have that revolutionary change in my attitude. And this is important. It says the central fact, not an over there idea, but the central fact. Not theory, not wish, not maybe, not could be, not keep coming back and something might rub off. No, the central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty. This is not mincing words. This is our experience. What I'm after is a spiritual experience. And this is our experience, absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. So that my Creator has entered into my heart and through my heart into my life in a way which is indeed miraculous. Do you know what's miraculous? Permanent, contented sobriety. That's pretty miraculous. But if I stop there, man, I am missing it. Actually, if I stop at sobriety, I'm missing contented. You know what I'm saying? Because I could stay dry and loyal, but I was not happy, joyous, and free, But it's that idea that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. And there's two ways to read that. That's the first way. The second way to read it is that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives, as in lives within my heart in a way which is indeed miraculous. And either way, where is one of the places that I can find God? Within my heart. Within my heart. That is one of the places in which God resides. And it says he has commanded us to accomplish those things for us which we could never do by ourselves. Permanent, contented sobriety. But so much more than that. Freedom from the bondage of self. Freedom from pain and suffering and humiliation. Freedom from fear and guilt and shame. Freedom from resentment. Do you know what I'm saying? There is freedom on offer. And it goes on to say, if you are as seriously alcoholic as we were. Looks like I am. Looks like I am. Physical allergy, mental obsession, that's what it means to be seriously alcoholic. That's it. We believe there is no middle of the road solution. So nothing less than a spiritual experience and I will drink again. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. How did they know? You know what I mean? How did they know my life was becoming impossible? And it says, and if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, page 24, bottom paragraph, I have passed into that region. If I have experiences of the allergy and experiences of the obsession. So that's me. This is me. We had but two alternatives. One was to go onto the bitter ends, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable solution as best we could. And the other to accept spiritual help. To go on drinking myself to death. Or in and out of rehabs, in and out of, until I inevitably die of this thing or take my own life. That is option B. Option A. Option B is work these 12 steps as a way of life. And this is black and white. It's black and white. And there's so much gray and subtlety and nuance in our book. But for me to get there, to see the beautiful colors of life, I need to see my black and white predicament. I need to see that there is no option C. If I don't have alcoholism, I got choices. I don't have choices. I have alcoholism. I got option B. I know. I'm going to wrap it up at right after this. I was keeping an eye on the time. I promise I got you. I got two choices. And here's my experience. If I do not actively and intentionally choose option B, which is to work these 12 steps as a way of life, like my life depends on it, because it does, I have chosen option A. Whether I think so or not, whether I believe it or not, whether I like it or not, if I have alcoholism, if I do not choose with everything that is in me to work these steps as a way of life, I will drink again. That is the predicament that I am in if I have alcoholism. It goes on to say, this we did because we honestly wanted to and were willing to make the effort. And I will leave it there. Still 5 minutes. I didn't take up the full minute.